Welcome to Talk.TV, the weekly live online show for all you fish heads out there. I'm Alan Broderick, and it's great to have you join us again on Talk.TV here, coming to you live from Crooked Wood here in County Westmeath, the centre of Ireland. Tonight my guest is Mick Flanagan. Mick is a great friend of mine. Mick is an angling journalist, he's a correspondent, but he's a fantastic fisherman. We also have a great lineup tonight. We're actually going to go over to Oman in the Middle East. We're going to talk to a man who's been working with and fighting for the cause of the giant Mahseer, the Golden Mahseer, Barbus Tor, trying to keep them alive and trying to keep poachers from destroying that wonderful fishery on the Cauvery. A really interesting man. We're also going to meet up with our great friend Anietra Hamper over in Ohio. We've got my good friend Pascal Brisso with his shore snacks, something that I actually love getting my teeth into, literally. And then we have our book review, and we have a few other little interesting bits and snippets along the way. So Mick, you are an angling journalist and writer, and I know you quite a number of years. You're a terrific fisherman. That's
right, Hannah. We've come across each other over the years.
Over the years.
Through the fishing, and it's something I started off very young in life. When I was 5, 6 years of age, I was introduced to fishing. But I grew up in Springfield and Mullingar, and the house name was Riverside Bungalow.
Riverside, very appropriate.
That's my mother and father's place. So the Brusna flowed down one side of it, coming out of Loch Shever down into Loch Ennell, and then straight in front of the house was the Royal Canal. Wow. So I was completely surrounded.
You're surrounded. And of course, for those of you out there who don't know the sort of layout of Mullingar, Mullingar is Loch Oul, Loch Ennell, all on the sort of southern side of it. Northern side, you've Loch Derravara. Then you've got Loch Lane, again, northern of it again. And we have a myriad of rivers, streams, canals. It's absolutely called the Lakeland County, and it is a Lakeland County.
It's a magical place to grow up if you are into fishing or into outdoor life. I love the shooting as well, and fishing and shooting are my two passions, but shooting more so. Wow. In the winter, when the fishing takes centre stage from the 1st of March on.
Now, Mick, when you were a young boy, what age did you start?
I was 5 or 6 years of age when I started, and I brought a photograph just to show you the picture.
Show the folks out there. Oh, that's a lovely photo. So that's you. What age are you there? Are you 5 or 6 or 7?
I was 5 or 6 now, and not a whole lot has changed. I went grey in life. I didn't grow that much. I didn't grow that much.
You have a lovely curly little head on you there. Make me show it to the camera there. And you're on a canal. Are you near the town centre?
I'm at the supply bridge.
You're at the supply bridge. Coming out of Loch Oul.
Till this day, I still walk over that bridge every evening with the dogs.
Do you really? And what a wonderful thing.
It has not changed a bit. You can walk up there now, and you'll still catch perch under the bridge. That would have been one of the first fish I ever caught.
That's super.
A perch.
A perch.
On a worm.
Yeah.
The garden olive.
And did your dad fish?
My father never fished, no. But my father took this photograph. I got the fishing all from my mother's family. My uncles, my grandfather, they were big into fishing. They loved their fishing.
The Keenan family?
The Keenan family.
And your mom's, all our brothers, they're fishing, dad and all of that?
2 brothers.
Grandfather?
I have one uncle still alive, one uncle dead. But my grandfather was a baker in Mullingar, in Mullally's Bakery, all his life. We buried him in 1990, 96 years of age, so he was a healthy man.
A healthy man, fantastic life he had.
And he smoked a pipe, and he drank a few drinks all his life.
And loved the fishing.
And liked a bit of fishing, but he was into greyhounds, he was into outdoor.
Yeah, he was outdoor pursuits man.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
But it was my uncles more so that
he
used to come and collect me, because that's I had no way of getting out to fish. But if I went missing, the first place to go look at me was down the river. And I was a young lad.
Have you any memory at all what your first fish might have been, what you caught?
I'd say my first fish had to be perch. Yeah. Now I have some other old photographs, Alan, taken on the canal during the summer months when I was 9, 10, 11, 12, and they were perch. The broad perch was catching.
So that's probably what you cut your teeth on.
That's what I got. And then when the trout in the Brusna, the trout that time was full of fish. But now it's very weedy now. It's a different Brusna than when I was growing up, unfortunately.
It is, yeah.
You know, and that time...
But it's interesting, Mick, you had such wonderful waterways as a young child. I mean, you literally fell on your feet when you started fishing around the Mullingar area back in the day when you started.
Oh, big time. And all you were doing was hoping that someday you grow up big enough to fit into these wellies. Yeah. You see these wellies at the back door.
And you're probably like me at one stage that as a young child, the first thing you want to do then, once you're fishing, is you want to catch a decent sized fish. So when do you think you might have caught a trout or a pike? Would you have been a teenager?
No, I would have been quite young when I caught the trout, because that time the Brusna was a great place for trout. And big trout, you'd be catching a trout maybe £1.5, £2.
Oh, beautiful brown trout.
And I do remember bringing them home, you know, because they'd be naturally.
Of course. I mean, a very, very prized fish to bring home.
Especially out with the Brusna there now, and it was beautiful. And then I used to go up to Loch Shever, and that's when I suppose I started catching the pike. Yeah. And then on the canal, catching the pike.
And you have a particular love affair with pike, don't you? And you've been very successful.
Well, I do a lot of pike fishing. I do a lot of perch fishing and the trout fishing. They're the 3 species I really target.
Yeah.
Now,
folks, Mick has a wonderful guiding business that he's been at for really 20, 30 years now, and he also does shooting in the wintertime and brings people out hunting. But if you want to go to midlandangling.com, you'll see all that Mick gets involved in. He's a fantastic photographer, wildlife photographer, but he also does a lot of stuff with the local newspapers and also with a very large circulation newspaper called the Sunday World, and he has a column in that every Sunday, his angling column. And Mick, you're a great man for turning up at tournaments and giving people an update and a news round about what's happening sort of in your patch.
The way it's gone now in the last couple of years, Alan, I nearly have a fishing report online when I'm out. It's up on Facebook, and when we come in, we put up a few photographs. As you said, I do a lot of photography work. It came part and parcel with the fishing. And over the years, I advanced with my cameras and with my equipment. You know, every time you'd get a few pounds, you'd try and buy a lens. So I have a couple of Nikons now, and I have a couple of lenses, and I get some very unusual shots, because when you're outdoors, Alan, no more, and you know that yourself, you'll see things that people don't see.
That's right.
And you'll come across things. Yeah. They might be in a split second.
Your eyes and your ears, actually, are so tuned and fine-tuned. You hear and see things that 99% of people who don't fish will never see or hear.
Yeah, and you'll see, like even last year, for an example, I was in Lough Lane there, and one of the big buzzers came in over me. And I just walked out through the little bit of a bank and just snapped this buzzer up on top of the tree, and he'd taken off.
That's fantastic.
Split second in Westmeath.
Yeah, in Westmeath.
You know,
absolutely. There's wonderful wildlife to be had over here as well. Now, Mick, you didn't train formally as a journalist or whatever, and a photographer, and yet you're in that profession, which is quite a demanding one. It requires a lot of skills and things, and you've done really well. You must have a natural talent and ability in that area.
Well, it's came to me by accident.
Okay.
And I had a few very good friends in Dublin who were photographers and journalists. And then I went to the local paper, as you mentioned, the Westmeath Topic, and I spoke to them in March 2002. Right?
You remember well.
Dick Hogan.
Yeah.
And Dick was editor, and Tommy Kieran told him. I spoke to him and I said, listen, I'd like to promote the fishing in Westmeath. And I was very green, to be honest with you, Alan, because that time I used to have to write out in a bit of paper and hand it in to Dick. You know, no such thing as typing it now and
or uploading photos to Dropbox,
you know,
or whatever. None of that was on the scene at all.
No, I used to take the photographs in an ordinary little pocket camera, get them developed, and bring them up to the Topic to scan them.
Wow.
I have actually.
That's fantastic, Mick.
That's my first article.
Showed up again to the folks out there. That's your first article. Good trout stocks on Lough Ennell ? Angling Focus. That's fantastic. And who are the lads? Just young lads? Was that at a fishing competition?
There were a couple of young lads. That's a pipe across the Bruston beside my house.
I'll show that up to the cameras. Look at that there now.
Now, them young lads have to be, how old are they now?
Wow, yeah, exactly. But Mick, that's wonderful, isn't it? So that's your first article you wrote. And what year, what time is it, did you say?
March 2002.
March 2002.
And then I moved on from that, Alan, and the Topic were very good to me and gave me plenty of room to promote.
Yeah, it's a very good newspaper. Show that again to the folks out there. So this is a local paper, very much dealing with everything in the county of County Westmeath, and it's full of all the news and gossip and what's going on and developments, and if there's controversial stuff, it's all in that.
And entertainment.
Great reference for local people.
If you have fishermen in here over for the week and they want to find out what's going on.
Yeah.
But that's for me. My fishing column was actually turned into that.
So that's yours now there at the moment, right?
Some change from.
Yeah, Super Perch from Ennell and Derravara. That's Mick's latest feature. There's our good friend Barry Darby, who featured recently on the show. There he's collecting a prize again in another tournament that he won. What a terrific guy he is. But Mick, you're staying with us on the show this week. You're our guest.
Yes, and I'm looking forward to it now. We'll have a nice chat.
Yeah, so Mick will be with us throughout the show, and of course we're going to have my favourite part of the show now. We're going to see Pascal Brissot and his shore snacks. And this week, Pascal takes the very humble sausage roll to a new level.
Okay, Pascal, we're in off the river now. We're here for another one of your shore snacks. What are we going to have today?
Fish are jumping now, you see.
Yes.
Very good. But today we will have a remake of a sausage roll, technically.
Okay.
All right, we're getting a sausage from our own butcher, some garlic butter, like creamy tomato sauce, some nice rocket on eatable flowers.
Very nice.
On a nice French baguette. Keep it French away a bit, you know.
Okay. And traditionally, a lot of Irish fishermen on the way to fishing have a coffee and a breakfast roll. This is a slightly different twist, obviously.
Yeah, but it will be, in the end of the day, you have that in your hands, and but it will be hot and better.
I think it'll be a lot more flavour. Okay, let's get stuck in and see what happens.
All right. Okay, I will start with olive oil, hot pan.
Okay. This is a fantastic pot you have here.
It is, yeah. I steal that from my wife, and I just chop it here and there. And
yeah, it's great. And on a windy day, you've protection.
Completely on this safety.
Yeah.
And really works.
And it looks the part too.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, so the sausages has to be pre-cooked.
Okay.
So we have no time on the water to cook them through. Or you just want warm food, technically.
Okay.
There's no point to have raw sausage or raw anything. No. Just pre-cooked at home.
So yeah, you can take a few sausages from the breakfast,
completely,
or from the grill the evening
before.
Yeah,
from the grill the evening, or nice barbecue you have the day before,
yes,
and you keep it in the fridge, and you chop it in small pieces. It will be more easy to eat in a sandwich. Yeah. And you just and you do eat it in oil.
And there's a great sizzle, and I can smell them there now.
Like usual, you know.
They brown very quickly, don't they?
They brown very quick because they are already cooked.
Yes.
But the fact to brown, but don't burn it now.
Oh,
brown,
no.
Eh?
No, I think that would. A lot
when
of people
it's black, it's brown.
a lot of people overcook food in Ireland.
Completely, yeah, a lot. That don't need to be overcooked.
But we're having a quick shore lunch, so we can't overcook anything.
Exactly. Yeah. Just 2-3 minutes. You have to add a wee bit of salt, not for the sausage. It's for the garniture after.
Okay. And that's just plain old salt.
Yeah, plain salt mixed with pepper and some different spice.
Okay.
When that is nice singing, a little bit of white wine.
Oh.
We lift everything. You can see the nice song.
That would lift you all right, yeah.
It's lovely, yeah.
So the pork now is mixing with the flavours of the wine.
Exactly, on that reduce the grease also.
Yes.
Of the sausage.
Okay. I can smell the pepper as well.
Yes, you see the spice coming out, you know. Yeah. Because it's like the spice are dry, it's like a tea somewhere.
Okay.
Or you just put the dry stuff in liquid, the aroma come out straight away.
Great. So this is all, the angler coming out with you, they can learn, this is a quick dish that anybody can do, bringing out their friends.
Yes, 2 minutes. Hop, a little bit of garlic butter. Okay. You can buy it already made as well, or you can do it at home. Yes. It's a little bit of garlic with butter and some parsley inside. And
that melts very quickly.
Exactly, and you see that we'll thick the sauce straight away.
Yes.
And we finish with, we had a mix of cream and some tomato sauce.
Okay.
Just a wee drop like that.
Again, regular things that you can buy in the supermarket.
Yes, exactly. It's cream and tomato sauce. Just have to mix it before you go fishing in a wee plastic tub, and it's ready to go.
So the preparation at home takes a lot longer than what it does on the shore.
Technically, yes. In restaurant business is the same. We call that the mise en place.
Okay.
To be ready to do something very good, you have to be en place.
Okay.
For fishing, we do strictly the same with fishing gear. When you are in competition, your fishing gear are not ready. You are behind.
You're losing time, yeah.
Yes, completely.
And if you're in the kitchen, you've someone screaming for their dinner, they're hungry.
Yes, you can't lose time. Fishing, you can lose time. Even for a picnic, you can lose time.
Absolutely.
You won't go back fishing.
Yeah, I can't wait to get back out.
Exactly, it has to be ready as soon as possible.
Okay, great.
Okay. Well, you reduce your cream.
Yes, the heat is doing that all the time.
Yes, all the time. Nice boiling. And after, you take your piece of bread.
Okay.
Nice baguette cut in two.
Yes.
All right. You put some nice rocket.
Yeah.
Like that. Oh, this morning I had nice nasturtium in the garden. That give a peppery taste.
These are edible flowers?
Oh yes, they are, nasturtium. Okay, you have it red or yellow.
Very good. I've never eaten flowers.
Oh, it's lovely. You will see it's lovely taste. And after, of course, you take some diced sausage and you put in your sandwich like that.
Oh my God. This is something I think that most people should try when they're out fishing, rather than having the plain old sandwich or a...
Yes, exactly. You know, like this bloody ham sandwich and in the cellophane.
And we're all guilty of it, but
yes,
this is
easily
doable.
Excuse
That's
me.
okay.
It's an accident there.
Okay.
I have a plate for you.
Great. Fantastic smell.
Voilà.
Okay.
Bon appétit.
Thank
Enjoy.
you.
Welcome back to Fish Talk.TV, the weekly online fishing show for all of us fish heads out there. I'm in studio this week with my good friend Mick Flanagan, and we're going to talk about fishing in a minute. But first of all, I've got a bit of housekeeping to do. This is your show. We created the show for you folks. It's an interactive online show. So tweet the show at Fish Talk TV. Go and see us on Facebook or just keep watching the show. But we'd love you to send us in some information about what's going on in your patch, anything that you might want to get off your chest and tell us about something that's controversial, or maybe something that's wonderful, latest catches, something extremely, you know, important that might be going on in your area that we would find interesting, and we would broadcast it to the larger audiences out there. Now, Mick, you're going to tell us about, you're doing something very interesting in the line of jigging for perch. These lovely perch, which the Americans call yellow perch, but they're gorgeous fish. Percha fluviatilis, that's its scientific name. So tell us what you're doing now.
The perch fishing has become very popular as a winter sport now, especially in the bigger lakes here, Alan.
Yeah. And they're very cooperative in the winter.
Yeah, once you look at them, the shoal fish, to move out into the deep water in the winter months. And at the moment now, I've started fishing different little methods, just trying to get something to work. We were starting off, we were doing a bit of jigging with just normal jigs like we have here, you know. But what I've started doing now, it's like similar to a mackerel system. Yeah. I'd have a 4 or 5 ounce bomb, and then I'll have 3 droppers, maybe, or 2 droppers, depending.
Yes.
And I'm using muddlerhead minnows and minkies.
Mudhead minnows.
Muddlerhead minnows.
Yes.
They're what we use for the rainbow trout fishing as such.
Okay. Describe it out to people out there, to that camera, Mick, because this is important that you're telling maybe people in France or Germany or England something that you now have sort of tuned into it, that they might be able to utilise as well.
Well, it's the muddlerheads.
Describe it.
It's for basically it's a lure. It's like a smaller version of a pike fly.
Okay.
Put it that way. Yeah. And you'll get them in all.
There's a lot of deer hair and stuff like that on it.
There would be, and then the big muddler head on it.
Marabou and all that, and the muddler head on it. Yeah, yes.
You go into any fishing tackle shop, Alan.
You pick them up.
Because nearly all over the world now, all over Europe, you have rainbow fisheries popping up everywhere.
Well, muddlers are hugely important on those big reservoirs of the UK.
Yes.
Yeah,
and it's the same with the minkies and another fly called a humongous. I wouldn't be an expert on the fly.
Yes.
But I'm like a lad, I'm like a child who goes into a sweet shop. If I see that colour of a fly and it catches my eye, that's it. It's going in the box. You know, and it's an angler's instinct.
It's an absolutely, and often like it ends up in that box, and after a week it never sees the light of day again.
It's comical.
I know.
You know, and I've actually caught big perch on these frogs.
The frog, these are super, aren't
they? And I've caught them on the River Inni, not too far from here. I've caught them in Loughnennel, and like that. I was in Angler's World in Navan a few years ago, and I was just walking around looking, and I seen a packet of these.
Hold them up to your camera there, Michael, there.
I seen a packet of these.
Hold it just like that there, just like that vertically. So you're showing that camera there. You can see it, that's it.
Yeah.
And Mick, how do you fish that now? Do you scuff the bottom? Let it hit the floor and scuff it and puff a bit of silt?
Keep bringing across through the weeds, especially.
Are you bringing the rod tip backward?
No, you're working, you're jigging.
Yeah, you're jigging.
You're jigging like mad. Yeah. Sometimes if you see a deep hole between the weed beds, you let them drop down a bit. And 9 times out of 10,
they'll hit it.
A pike will come out and hammer it.
Yeah. But you know what I find, Mick, sometimes I do? I count down, let it hit the floor, slack line, then tighten them and lift it. And then, but I let it scuff. I always think that if I'm in an area where I know the silt, the impact of that jig head hitting that silt and a puff of silt up, it makes them alert. What's this?
Watching it.
Something's going on here, and then they're onto it. And it's a visual sort of stimulation to say, come and eat me.
Yeah.
That's what I've done, and it's useful. Now, you have a lot of stuff here, which you say.
They were deadly.
Okay.
When the frogs were in spawn.
Yeah, so around March, February,
March, they're in shallow water.
Yeah.
Or on the rivers. They're lethal. Yeah. Because that's what's swimming across the river.
And they're so effective. And they're so effective. Now, you've got a greater range of stuff here, little small minnow baits.
I have a couple of small little things. These are what I use for jigging for the perch now.
Yeah.
But like, the reason I started using the 4 and 5 ounce bombs with the muddler heads on them.
Yeah.
If it's a bit windy.
So see that there now, folks. That's just your typical small jig head. You're probably onto about 3/4 ounce, in fact. I'd say that is. So do you drop that down like that and let it scuff the bottom and bring it up?
Yeah.
Just with the vertical lift.
Yeah.
Keep it moving. And of course, the old ribbon tail on it, superb.
If it's a nice calm day, they're it's lovely. It's very enjoyable fishing.
And Mick, for viewers out there, what line are you using? Are you using 10-pound line or what?
I'd have 20-pound braid on.
20, so it's very, very fine, yeah.
Oh, it's fine.
You have a diameter probably about 6 pound mono.
And you feel everything.
Yes,
you feel every little nudge.
It's like a telegraph going to your heart and telling you to.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
I'm sure every time, you know better than me, every time you get that nudge back, your heart does go.
Yeah. Now, Mick, you've got a few little minnow baits jointed and just straight.
These are a few little things that I use.
Lift them up again
for
me.
For the trout fishing.
Let's see what we have. That's lovely.
Is it?
That's like a Yozuri, that fella there, is he?
That's an Abu Ghash, a Terminator.
And
as you can see now with that one, it's absolutely hammered.
Yeah.
No, but that's for trout.
I'm going to, hold up that there. See those, there's a little jointed guy, little minnow bait. And this guy here is again, And that's like a trout pattern there, Mick, isn't it? A brown trout pattern.
Yeah, that's a little zonker, I think, if you look at there.
Yeah.
And
they're beautiful, aren't they?
And there's one thing about that, Helen.
Yeah.
If you look at that now, the lip is broke on that.
Yes.
Which would never. That still works. You see?
Yes, yes.
But that'll work.
I'll show
perfectly.
that to the camera again. Look at that there. The little diving vein or the bib on the front is gone.
Hitting rocks.
And yet, scuffing the rocks.
Because the little minnows and the sticklebacks are in the rocks.
And yet you're catching.
And yet you're catching with that.
That just shows you.
You know.
Yeah.
And that's a little capture lure. That's very good. That's a suspended little lure.
Okay.
So if you were, I actually stopped.
Again, I'm going to show them to the folks. This little small one, Mick. So how do you do a burn and stop sort of retrieve? Do you cast out?
I'd be trolling him more so.
Oh, would you?
Yeah.
Okay. And he's got a wonderful action.
He's a super action, but when you if you stop the boat,
yeah, it's like a
suspended.
rainbow pattern. It is rainbow trout pattern.
Yeah, and he'll be taken as suspending.
Yeah.
Without even moving.
Okay.
You could even toss it out in lightweight gear.
Isn't that amazing?
Just leave it there.
Yeah. So when they're on, they're on. Now, also this guy here.
That's another Bugatti Terminator.
Yeah, and he's got a very nice sort of mother of pearl type finish on the sides. So these are all perch lures that you would use, Mick.
I'd use them for perch, but I also find them very successful for the trout.
Yeah, isn't it amazing?
Especially in the early season.
Yes, yeah.
When you go out there in March, the 1st of March,
yes,
and the Lake of Loughlin and Lough opens.
After the spawn, and they're repairing, and they're really mad for anything.
They're aggressive.
Very aggressive.
Some of the hits you get on them small lures is unbelievable. Yeah. And you're in shallow water.
Yeah.
You're out in the Lake of Lough there, Alan, now, and if anyone is coming down to Lough next March, get out across the shallows of Church Island, the Bull Ring.
The Bull Ring?
The Bull Ring.
Yeah, I know it, but for
yeah.
people's
yeah,
out there who are interested in it.
Yeah, get across them shallows early season, above a pint of Brabsons. Anywhere you have rocky water.
And a drop off.
And a drop off. They've been there chasing the
absolutely.
Backs.
And the fish are repairing, folks. They've had the ardours of the rigours of spawning and procreation behind them since November, December. The fish then go into this sort of lethargy around January. But by March time and late February, they're absolutely perking up, aren't they? And they're going to hit nail anything because they're very thin and slim, very slack fish, as we call them. And they really hammer the lures.
But some of them do be still in very good condition, Alan, even in March. And Loughlin now here in North West Meath, you mentioned it there in the...
Great fishery, limestone fishery.
Yeah, and in the last number of years that's been heavily stocked with rainbow trout and brown trouts and triploids. Wow. And the triploids are very, very aggressive, the big rainbows. This year now, there was rainbows 5-6 pound weight caught on the fly and on the troll.
Oh, that's wonderful.
You know, and they're great
They're
fish.
crackers.
Yeah, and it's a great...
And they're acrobatic because they're all aerial out of the water.
And they're brilliant.
Yeah.
And they're very, very hard fighting fish. Yeah. You'd know immediately the difference between a brown and a rainbow on the rod.
The first time you hit him, you know.
You know, he goes bananas, it's a big lump of rainbow.
They do indeed.
And it's very exciting fishing for young people because when a lake is stocked, you're nearly sure you're going to get a couple of fish.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because kids have confidence then that there's a stock of fish to be had.
Once they bend the rod, get a couple of fish, get the old photograph. I took photographs of kids this summer, that age with their fathers.
Isn't that wonderful? So when you're a 5 or 6 year old, and there it is now today, modern times, wonderful.
And they'll have it, and I started there a couple of months ago writing for Pike and Predator.
Yeah.
And the November issue is out now, and it's a 2 or 3 page feature with young anglers. Brilliant,
brilliant, brilliant. But listen, Mick is going to be staying with us throughout the show. He talked about earlier that he's jigging for perch. Now, these are some of the ones I was using as well. Just very simple. That's a 1/4 ounce jig head there. You'll see it's a red jig head there with the eye on it. This is a small storm lure, this one. And even this guy here we use with jig heads. And I just drop them down, scuff the rocks, bring them up vertically through the water, drop them maybe a foot, 1.5 feet, and they nail them on the drop many times.
Yeah.
So these guys are real good fish catchers.
And the white is a magic colour.
And it is a magic colour. Now, we're going over shortly to a great friend of ours, Anietra Hamper, and she's over in Columbus, Ohio, and she's going to be telling us what she's been up to and her travels that are coming on in the next few weeks. Anietra, it's great to have you back on the show again. So you've been traveling down in Louisiana with the shrimping. How did that go?
Oh, Alan, it's great to be back. Thank you. Louisiana shrimping is fantastic. I've never done that kind of fishing before. It's cast netting, and you know, the shrimp in Louisiana, they're bigger than everywhere else, especially in Ohio. And there's nothing better, as you know, than fresh seafood. So I got a chance to go down there and try cast netting, which is basically casting a net and pulling everything up from the bottom. It's a very fast process and a lot more physical than I ever imagined.
I tried it, I have to say, down in Florida one time at Bonita Springs, and it was a nightmare. It was like as if I got tangled up in a web, and I never wanted to do it again. I made a fool of myself. So I sort of said, well, I graciously passed it on to the next guy.
Absolutely. I was in Lake Charles, Louisiana, and I have great friends at the Lake Charles Convention and Visitors Bureau that took me out, taught me how to do it with some locals. And you're right, it's very hard to not get caught up in the nets, and it's very heavy. And I had a 5-foot net. So, those I believe can go all the way up to maybe 12 feet or maybe I don't know how big they get, but every foot that you get bigger in the net, of course, there's a lot of weights on the bottom. So you really have to put a lot of twirl and a lot of strength into that. It's cool though.
It is cool. I tell you, when somebody executes that really well, boy, do you say they can do it.
Oh, it's fantastic. And of course, catching something is your end goal. And we caught some huge shrimp that folks, can take home and boil and eat the same night, and they do. But talk about a great cup of gumbo with some of those really big Louisiana shrimp. It's fantastic.
Now, you're going down to Florida in about 10 days' time, I believe, and you're going saltwater fishing. What are you hoping to catch, and what time of the year is it over there in relation to the species available? Will you get tarpon over there?
They do catch some tarpon. I believe it's still getting arranged. So I think we're probably going to be going for some marlin, maybe some tuna. And so I'm still waiting to hear back and see what exactly we'll be fishing for when I'm down there. But the last time I went deep sea fishing, I got very sick. And I don't know if you've ever been through that. Have you been through that?
No, I have very good sea legs, touch wood.
Yeah,
now
right.
I'm touching wood, just in case.
I usually do. Unfortunately, the last time that I went, I think I did some things wrong. So, maybe that's a story out of it too, of how to you increase your chances of not getting seasick. But if all goes well, I'm going to be in Fort Lauderdale in Southern Florida and hopefully catching maybe some marlin. So I'll have to let you know. I'm looking forward to it though.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to hear how that goes. Now, we have a little thing over here in Ireland that if you feel a bit queasy going out in a boat, they always say have a good feed of pints of beer the night before and a big greasy fry with bacon, eggs, sausage and all the trimmings on that morning, and that'll really set you up for the day with that swell.
That sounds like it. Maybe not in the way I would like, but is that the secret?
I think that they're saying that tongue in cheek, but I know many people who have done that, and I think they've hardly ever survived it after the event.
No, I agree with you. And the whole look at the horizon thing doesn't work. No. It does not work. I've got a doctor prescribed me something called a transderm scope patch before. I have not tried that because I didn't need it that time, but I'm going to try that. I know that has worked really well for other fishermen, so I'm going to give that a shot and see how that works. Yeah, no,
I definitely. If you've got funny sea legs and you're not that great with a swell out in the ocean, I would try anything rather than being dying all day saying, oh my God, it's awful, it's awful. I've been with people and it absolutely destroys the day. But I didn't realize you're going offshore, so you're going into the real blue water. And yes. Will you get sailfish at that time of the year, or they are marlin, is that correct?
I believe marlin. I'll have to get back with you on that. I'm still finding out. I'm checking with my folks in Fort Lauderdale to find out exactly what I'm going to be catching this time of year.
But wahoo will be I'd say will be on the cards, and wahoo, I've had them in Africa, I've had them in a few different places, and they are some of the fastest, most speediest fish in the oceans.
Oh, that would be fantastic. Yes, I'm looking forward. I mean, it's nice to catch everybody wants to catch a big fish, right? But the ones that really fight are just, it's just nothing compares to that sort of rush that you get with those.
Now, at this time of year, for example, where you live, up there in Ohio, the winters start to get hard and cold and whatever. Have you fished though during summer times for muskie over in Kentucky in Cave Run Lake, or even in, say, Minnesota or over in Wisconsin? Have you ever tried muskie fishing?
I haven't done muskie fishing. I know my grandfather used to fish for muskie quite a bit, so that's one thing that's still on my list to try.
Well, it's something now I tried once, but I unfortunately, on the day that I went and did it, up on, I think it was, let me see, it was the Chippewa flowage, that's correct, of northern Wisconsin in the Northwoods. And I ended up catching a load of pike, but never saw muskie. And it's a species I've never caught, and it's certainly on my bucket list. Now, what have you planned in exotic travel in the next 6 months? Have you anything lined up that you're going to be going overseas for?
Right now I'm spending this end part of my year sort of getting my agenda together to figure out what's coming up next. I believe I mentioned to you before, Spain is high on my list. I want to catch that Wells catfish and it's up there for me. I'm so excited about it, but I haven't made plans for that yet. So I don't have anything set in stone yet. I'm kind of waiting on a couple of things and making my plans towards the end of the year.
Well, we are certainly going to put a plan in place, Anietra, to have you over sometime in 2015, and we'll introduce you to some of the Atlantic salmon over here, some trout, some pike, and no doubt we might even try and have a hand at some sea bass fishing on surface poppers. But that's something you can put in your diary. We've definitely put the wheels in motion with a certain number of people, and we're going to get you sent over to us over here, and I think you'll have a ball of a time doing 4 different species. That's what we target.
That would be fantastic. And can I ask you, Alan, since this is a show that a lot of people, both where you are and everywhere in the world, can see, I know that regulations are very specific in Ireland in terms of fish. How do they range for the types of fish that you mentioned? I mean, are those catch and release only? Is there, can people take them and eat them? What are the regulations?
Well, it's a very, very good question. It's also a complex one because each different river catchment often has a different, shall we say, bag limit or a different restriction imposed depending on the status of that species and how it's doing in that river catchment. And a river catchment could be an enormous system of 7 or 8 different feeder rivers coming into the main channel, shall we say. So that has its own, problems related to that. But by and large, salmon, a lot of people now are putting their salmon back. They take cockfish, but they want to leave the hens to go and procreate in a lot of the rivers. In trout fishing, there are limits on certain waters, so I couldn't give you, like off the top of my head, exactly what it is. But a lot of people, again, are getting much more conscious of the fact that this is a finite resource. We need to conserve it, look after it. There's nothing wrong with taking 2 or 3 fish for the table, but certainly not to go after 14, 16 or 18 fish. On a really good day during the mayfly season, some guys would take 16, 18 fish, and that to me is really unacceptable in this day and age. And with pike, of course, we do have worries about the pike being under pressure in certain locales, so we're trying to get the message out. This is a worthy fish for conserving as well. So when you get over here and we bring you out, we will learn as we go along the different rivers and the different catchments. Certainly we'll be complying with the local regulations and making sure that we get the message out that we are very caring anglers over here.
Yeah, and I love that, and that's a philosophy I go by too. And I love to eat fish; it's my favorite food. And at the same time, conservation is very important. And I think a lot of people that look at anglers think that we just like to catch fish for the sport, and we do, but we're also most anglers, I think you would agree, are very conservation conscious. So I like to hear that, and Ireland's beautiful. I'd love to come back and see what other species we can catch there.
Yeah, we're very, very good now over here. We've recognised that we need to conserve what we have, and I think people are all buying into that mentality. Now, Anietra, you will be coming back to us to let us know how you get on this blue water fishing trip you're going to do in Florida. Will you be away for Thanksgiving, or will you be back home in Ohio for Thanksgiving?
No, I'll be back. I'm going to probably after this trip. I'm done for the year. So, which is what, like a couple of weeks after that, the year's end.
It is indeed.
So, yeah. So a little breather before looking into next year. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Well, what we're going to do, I'm going to catch up with you then after your trip when you come back from Florida, and you're going to give us all the rundown and the gory details, and also you'll be bragging to us of these great fish that you caught, and we'll be as envious as hell.
That's right. I'm going to take some great pictures too, hopefully. Hopefully some good videos, some great pictures, a lot of action, and I'm looking forward to reporting back.
Well, listen, Anietra, it's been a wonderful pleasure again to have you on the show. We're excited about your trip going to Florida. Give us a bell when you come back and let us know how you get on, and we'll have you on the show. Thank you so much, Anietra Hamper.
All right. Thank you, Alan.
You're watching FishTalk.TV, the weekly online show for all of us fish heads. Now, Pixelated is our fishing competition for you to send in your photographs. It could be a memory of a big trophy shot, one with your buddies or your family, or indeed it could be a scenic shot. But it has to be sent in, send it and post it onto Facebook, our Facebook page. But if you don't send them in, you're not going to win anything. Now, this is the last opportunity for this round of prizes that are out there. We've got a big stash of wonderful prizes, tackle prizes, to give out to you out there for some lucky fellow who's going to win this, or lucky gal. But if you don't send in your photographs, you're not going to win. So earlier, I contacted a man who's over in Muscat in Oman, and he's a man born in India. He was also a test cricketer, which is of international standard. But he has spent his whole life conserving and fighting to protect the mighty Mahseer, that fabled fish that Rudyard Kipling wrote in The Brushwood Boy. The mighty Mahseer, the king of fish, beside whom the tarpon is as a herring. and he who lands them can say he's a fisherman. Saad Bin Jung, you're very welcome to FishTalk.TV. Saad, you operated for many years on the mighty Cauvery River, that iconic Mahseer River in southern India. And what brought you to Mahseer fishing, and particularly being a lodge owner?
Well, when I gave up cricket, then I went into conservation, and I took to ecotourism as a tool for conservation. And I was in Bandipur National Park for a few years, and in 1997 I arrived in on the Cauvery, and we actually had exclusive rights for angling, conserving the whole area for about 6 kilometers on a very tough and sensitive piece of river between Karnataka and Tamil Nadu, and that was since 1997. And I just fell in love with the fish, and I fell in love with the challenge of saving the fish, because it was being dynamited and it was being ravaged. That whole area was under severe pressure from humanity.
And in your wonderful book that you wrote called Subban and I, which is a dedication and a tribute to that wonderful guide Gilly that you worked with so closely for so many years, Subban, that fantastic iconic guide. You dedicate that book, as I say, but also it's a treatise on mankind and his inhumanity to sort of his fellow man, to you as guests on the river, and also to the butchery and madness that was going on over there to try to almost destroy what you guys were trying to protect.
Well, absolutely, and it was a huge learning curve for me to, and of course, a great honor to fish the river with such geniuses like Subban. But at the same time, you know, we had two different agendas. My agenda was, of course, conservation and trying to establish ecotourism in the area and trying to create awareness on conservation, create alternate revenues, and make the local people belong to the area. Subban's, on the first hand, was just survival. He was looking at making money out of it initially, but when he realized that, you know, we really weren't in the money in trying to get the money out, because we had limiting number of rods on the river. We had 2 people per square kilometer protecting it. We were conserving it. He realized that it was not about the money, and there was no way that we could make money from this operation. That's when he became a conservationist himself. And that took about 2 or 3 years. After that, the next 7 years that I spent with him on the river have been absolutely marvelous.
I remember in your book you stressed a number of times that as an operator and somebody who is so caring about the river and the future viability of the Mahseer in the river, that you stopped allowing anyone to fish after dark until light the next day, which I thought was a fantastic measure to take, but also it must have been a costly one from a revenue point of view.
Oh, absolutely. You know, we were up against Jungle Lodges, which had 33 kilometers river upriver of us. And yet we insisted that people only fish with a 40-pound line. They fish only in the hours from sunrise to sunset. And we had a very strict carrying capacity on the number of rods that we were willing to put on the river. That was because we believed that it was a sport. It was a sport which had to lead to conservation. You were not there for the records. You were not there for the size. There for the whole experience. Because landing a big fish in those river, in that particular stretch of river, where it starts descending down into the plateau, was extremely challenging, and it's such a different art from trying to land a big fish in a big pool, you know. So for every hour that we would be on the line with the fish, we'd have to clear nearly 5 to 6 snags. We'd be using 4 to 5 rods on a fish at times. So it was a very different challenge. But it was lovely.
And Saad, over the years, you must have got to know all of the beats so well, the really good hot spots on the river, the moods of the river. And what was the largest fish that came out during your time and relationship with the Cauvery there?
Well, I think the largest fish that came out was mine, which was around 107.
That's 107 pounds now. I just want to explain that to our viewers around the world. That is a Golden Mahseer Barbus Tor, the wonderful iconic Barbus Tor, and that was 107 pounds. My golly, that's an enormous fish.
But you know something? We went onto a fish the year before, and when the fish was running, Subban actually said, "Sir, cut the line. We're not going to get this fish." And I said, "No, Subban. What do you mean you won't get it? We need to fight. We need to try for it." He said, "Sir, it's too big." And we fought it, and we managed to see it. and it was at least 1.5 times the size of the fish that we had.
Oh, wow.
But a 40-pound line was just not big enough to land it in that river, and we lost it.
My golly. And if you were to put a conservative estimate, Saad, would you think it was certainly going towards 160, 180 pounds?
Oh, I think that you're absolutely right. You took the words out of my mouth. It was around the 160 to 170 pound mark.
Isn't that fantastic? To even know that you are standing beside this turbulent, rushing, wonderful wild waterway, an artery that flows right down into the southern part of India, and you have these Golden Mahseer up to potentially 200 pounds swimming not far out. Isn't that a wonderful thing to feel and know in your bones, that you actually have a connection and a link with some Leviathan of the depths of such magnitude?
Well, it's actually more than that, because these Leviathans, they know the river better than you, and they know each and every snag. So you have to outthink them, and that is where the challenge was, and that's where Subhan came onto his own, because these fish were probably older than Subhan himself. And it's not that they weren't hooked. This was the first time we were hooking them.
So would you classify them as a highly intelligent species? Sorry, Saad.
I think they're highly intelligent. I think they communicate. I think we know nothing about the breed. I think they're just the most fascinating species in the world.
Now, Bush Betta Camp no longer exists. Am I correct in saying that?
Well, Bush Betta Camp has all its equipment in place, but we are in battle against the government, because we are trying to establish angling as a tool for conservation. The government has come up with an unsigned letter from the Ministry of Environment and Forest, saying that angling should be banned. And I'm saying, well, if you ban angling, that's the end of your fish, because we are going to lose it to the people, and especially the Barberstone Musalla or the humpback Mahseer. We will lose the original gene pool. And you must remember here that the earlier people, who had put in other fingerlings into the river had interbred the fish. And there are very few fish with a pure gene pool left. And we really had to work hard to protect those. And now with the new laws in place where where angling is banned, I think we will lose the pure gene pool of the Barberstone Musalla, the humpback Mahseer, or the Cauvery.
Of the Cauvery. And for you, Saad, that must be a heartbreaking scenario that you're facing, because the fact that you put your lives on the line. In one of the chapters I remember reading vividly one night, and I read it a second time, you and Subhan were almost murdered by these bandits and these thugs over there.
Well, not just, my wife was also there with us. We've lost our limbs, they've burnt our camps. But that was the challenge, where people, and I don't blame them, because they didn't understand what we were trying to do. And unfortunately, conservation in Africa or in India is such a thankless job. You're not going to look at getting a thank you out of the government, out of the local people at the end of dedicating 13 or 14 years, and I'm not expecting that. But I was kind of expecting to ensure that the pure lineage and the pure gene pool of the Barberstone Musalla would continue after I had gone. But unfortunately, that seems to be the challenge now. And I'm not there anymore, because the government doesn't want me there. Although they've got their own camp, which is not angling, but they've got their camps, but they don't have me there. So I really don't know what's going to happen.
Saad, for people who want to contact you around the world, how and where will they get you on the web?
Well, I think the best thing to do is to go through you, because I will keep you up to date. Unfortunately, I travel a lot in Africa now, and I would suggest that they go through you, because you will know my whereabouts, and I will also let you know what's happening with the cases and with the position on the river, and if it ever is going to be allowed, and if not, then the alternatives also I will keep you updated with, as to where would be the best place to fish for the Musalla.
That would be terrific. And you can go to our Facebook page and always post stuff. And also you can put tweets to us as well, Saad, if you like. And I will then in turn make sure that our viewers are well up to date on what you're doing and all that's going on with all your endeavours to protect this wonderful iconic sport fish, the Golden Mahseer of the Cauvery River. Saad Bin Jung, it's been a great pleasure of mine to talk to you finally, and we will keep in contact you. Thank you so much for coming on FishTalk.TV.
Absolute pleasure, sir. Thank you very much.
Saad Bin Jung, a man among men. What a fantastic character, devoting his life to protecting this very precious species that's fast disappearing off our planet, the mighty Mahseer of the Cauvery River. Mick, that was really, really inspirational, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's amazing what some people do out there to save fish.
and to save wildlife really, and just to try to maintain the balance of nature.
Yeah, but you'll have it in every country though, unfortunately, Alan, you know, like...
You have it everywhere. Now, back to our own patch here in Ireland. Are you happy the way things are? Are you confident for the future of our fish stocks and for the youth coming into the sport?
The youth, I personally think there could be a lot more done to encourage youth to come into the fishing. Like, and that's coming from my father. Yeah. Like, I've 4 now, but they're getting on. But the young lads now are only 13, and they might come an odd day fishing if the weather's anywhere right, you know. And my daughter done a good bit of fishing there, and
she always featured in a lot of the photographs, your young daughter?
Yeah, she was very keen, you know, and now she's after doing her leaving and finishing up. She's taking a year out now, and she has a bit of a part-time job, so now they haven't got the time. Yeah. And there's more out there now than there was when I was growing up.
A lot of distractions.
Like, there are a lot of distractions, and I wrote about it in November issue of Pike and Predator, all the games that they're out there playing now.
That's it.
They're on games all the time.
Well, you mentioned something earlier, and I thought it was very important, Mick. And it's to do with the rainbow trout up in Lough Lane, that if you can introduce children, or even say teenagers, they don't have to be that young, say, and give them a chance to catch fish. And my own friend Dennis in America always used to maintain, if you can get children catching fish from an early age, then they're interested. But if they go out and blank for many times out on a wet, windy day in a lake or in a river, you and I know that's a big turn off.
That's a big turn off. And the Lake of Lough Lane and Lough Owl, we're blessed here in the Midlands to have these venues. Like Lough Lane is a club control water. You can buy a day ticket.
Great fishery.
Lough Owl, an inland fishery island permit, and then you have a few rainbow lakes popping up around the place now, and some of them have kind of a bait pond.
That's it.
Where you can be now a 5 or 6 year old kid, and he just fire out a bit of corn on the end of a rod, and all of a sudden this line will take off, and he's holding on to this rod.
And do you know what, the child?
That's bedded in the brain.
To them, it's the most fantastical thing in life to have a living fish swimming on the end of their line, and just the buzz that they get. And you're right, and if we can do that and infuse and impart your passion and my passion that we had as children, and this sort of sense of wonderment, because the kids are they're not sort of, shall we say, overawed by anything nowadays, because they've seen it all with PlayStation and Xbox and all the different things, and this digital era that we now inhabit. We've got to try and then explain to them that it's a wondrous thing that we still do by going out and you're catching a wild fish
as such, and
you're trying to dupe it, you're trying to fool it, you're trying to, whatever you want to call it, to tease it to taking your offering, which is really an amazing thing, really.
It's a fantastic sport if we just get more of them into it. Yeah. And it's a healthy sport.
It's a really healthy sport.
You know, and you're out in the outdoors, and not alone that, you're catching fish, you're learning about
nature, and you're also the eyes and ears
everything.
of maintaining, like if there's pollution or anything going on, you're the first usually to be the alarm call, because the angler spots things that a lot of people never see.
That's right, Hannah, and in latter years now we've a lot of problems with invasive species. Yeah. And the first person that nearly reports this nowadays is an angler. Yeah. Because they're in the water 7 days a week sometimes. Yeah, yeah. You know, as you say, he or she will see this before
you're absolutely
fishery
right,
officers will. Yeah. And then they're waiting for the call, and now they have the emergency number where you can ring up a free number.
Your free number, that's right.
Ring it up if you do see any of this going on, or even if you come across the illegal fishing or the poaching.
Absolutely.
Which is still
it's your right and it's your duty, in fact, guys, that if you ever see anything, if you're in England, France, Germany, Ireland, anywhere indeed, if you see anything illegal going on, phone your local bailiff, your local fishery officer, whoever it is, and report it. But it gives me actually a very nice little segue here, Mick, to tell all our viewers out there, would you send us in suggestions that what we can do to attract youngsters into the sport. If any of you out there watching now have any things that you're involved in, programs or any sort of thing that is maybe funded locally by some municipality, or maybe it could be a community-based project that you're getting youngsters engaged in fishing, will you send us in details about it, let us know what's going on, maybe a web address or whatever, and we'll broadcast it to all around the place. But also maybe we can pick up on this over here in Ireland, and we could use it as tips that we could put to good effect.
Certainly, but I think they should target, like I visually remember fishery officers coming into the schools years ago and showing us brochures with fish species and what's in our lakes and rivers. If you ask 90% of the kids out there nowadays what's in Lough Lane,
cod, haddock, mackerel, they won't come up with rudd, tench, trout, pike, they won't.
Well, I'll tell you a very good one now. I'll tell you a very good one now. I partially eat fish, I like fish. Yeah. I'll always keep a couple of trout, keep a perch. Yeah. But one day I was sitting eating my dinner, a lovely trout, right? And the daughter was quite young at the time, Alan. And she was walking by the kitchen and said, "Do you want a bit of fish?" I said, go away, yuck, says she, I won't eat fish. I said, what's in your fish finger? Chicken, says she.
Mick, your parenting skills were gone down the hill at that stage.
Oh,
well,
no, but I'm mad at the cocoa.
You didn't know whether to cry or laugh. That's funny.
It's comical. They don't, like, none of the kids eat fish.
That's funny, Mick.
You know, like, they started to eat a bit of game.
But isn't it funny though, the way you can educate children, as you say, they learn about lapwing, they'll see maybe a buzzard, they might see a kingfisher, they might even hear a curlew or whatever, that lonesome wail of a curlew. And it's wonderful. It's the whole, what I call the experience of going out on a day's fishing. Yeah,
well, that's one thing I miss now, Alan. When I walked in here, I seen the old reels you had here behind you.
Yeah.
And I remember they're the type of reels we had on the Bruston when I was a kid.
Yeah, that was in 1826, was it?
Oh, well, it would have been there enough. But I know, I'm 50 this year now. I am getting on a bit, but...
Yeah. Now you're a youthful looking 50-year-old, Mick.
Well, I'm 50 there now in March.
But Mick, you've seen then transition like I have, like all of us have, the transition from the monofilament lines to these high-tech gel spun lines. They're amazing. They're almost like a telegraph line up to your brain, to your arm.
Yeah, and like, go back to them reels just for a second. I remember when I used to be on the Bruston fishing, with the old drag on that, the corn cracks used to answer me.
Because they heard this clicking sound. And which is like a mimic of this very rare bird,
and the corncrake. They're gone. There's none of them now, Westmeath.
Yeah, nothing. No. There's some
gone.
down on the flood plains over near Banagher. I've heard one. That's all now. I've only heard one, I must say. So it could be dead by now.
It's donkey's years since I heard them now. And no,
very rare species.
I was only a young lad, you know.
Yeah.
But even like that, like, I remember one day I was fishing. It just shows you town fishing. I was fishing at the back of her pennies and quins, which it used to be. It's right. It's along the Brusna.
Yes, I know it.
Her super value is now.
Yes.
And I was fishing along that stretch for the little trout in the river, and I had a pea capped me, and a robin.
And what age were you?
Oh, I don't know. At that time, I don't know what age I was, Alan, to be honest with you.
And a robin landed on your...
I remember him landing on the peak of my cap.
Because you were so still?
I was standing there, just watching the river.
My gosh. And your man landed on your cap. A little robin redbreast.
And that's one tip I give people. If they're going to start into the river fishing next year, spend time watching the river. Yeah. Go down for an evening.
Learn its moods.
And sit there, and you'll eventually start seeing fish dimpling here and there, and you'll get to mark them because they'll kind of be territorial. Yeah. And especially there where the cattle come down to drink.
And they stir it up.
And you're always going to have a couple of
trout. And they'll release maybe a worm or two, or maybe some grub that's been lying there under a stone or a pebble, or maybe a gammarus, and it'll just drift down, and he knows that, and he's going to line himself up and pick it off.
And the fish will be there.
That's a very good tip, Mick.
You know,
see, that's watercraft, and it's something that's not taught really nowadays, that you know and I know from where cattle would go in always habitually into a river to have its drink.
Yeah.
They'd muddied up the water and stir it up, and the fish, if it's a roach, it could be a bream, anything, trout, they know downstream that there's some goodies now released by the hooves going into stirring up the water. So when you're out there, read the water as much as you can, guys. Watch where birds are feeding on water. They're always the signposts. If you see any nervousness in the water and fry jumping out of the water, it usually means it's a marauding predator. It could be a trout, it could be a perch, or indeed a pike. It could be, if it's a saltwater species, a big predator chasing a lot of these schooly fish, clearing the water. And you know, if you have your lure, chuck it in amongst those guys and you're going to get a hit. Yeah. And that brings me along back to America once again. Our good friend Anietra Hamper is going to review the book this week, and I caught up with her, and she's going to tell us all about this amazing book that she feels is worthy of our attention, and it's a book I knew nothing about. As you know, Anietra, I'm a bit of a bookworm. I think you are as well, and I love books. So this week your book review will be...
My book?
Yeah.
It's called Amazing Fishing Facts and Trivia.
Amazing Fishing Facts and Trivia. I never heard of that title.
Well, I hadn't either. And actually, I wasn't looking for it specifically, to be honest with you. But I was in a bookstore, and I like to peruse around, you know, a lot of the outdoor fishing books and just to see what I see. And I stumbled on this, and it is a really cool, layout of facts and information about species and the history of angling, and a lot of useless fish facts, really, you know, to fill the hours in the boat when we're not catching anything. We can talk about things like, did you know that ichthyophobia, do you know what that is?
I haven't a clue.
See? It's the fear of fish, fishing, eating fish, looking at fish, catching fish, anything fish.
Well, I know one man who suffers from that very badly, in acute form of it, Michael Flanagan, who's sitting right beside me now. In fact, Michael loves fish so much, he'd probably bring him to bed if the wife would allow him, but unfortunately, she wouldn't allow him to do it, so he doesn't. But I've never heard that expression before. Someone who's a phobia about fish.
It's a phobia of fish. So I also learned a lot of little tips and tricks and things in this book. Things like beer can fishing. Tells you how to fish with a beer can, which, you know, for some folks that might be a nice way to multitask in a boat, especially there in Ireland where that's, you know, your national drink. So
I thought, Anietra, I thought you were going to tell me that in it they have a tip of how to make a life raft out of a beer can.
I don't know. That's not in there. I didn't find it. I didn't get to that chapter yet. But you never know. But I love it because it's such a great resource. And I do a lot of writing about fishing and outdoors. So sometimes there's species I've never heard of. You know, it talks about, so there's a lot of educational things in there. It's a great handy resource. I keep it on my desk all the time when I'm writing. And it's just full of knowledge, general knowledge about fishing, that things that you and I, we love to fish. And we always love to know new things about, oh gosh, I didn't know that you could use, you know, corn for bait. There's a whole chapter on household, you know, regular food that we eat that are great, great baits.
Absolutely. For example, your catfishing escapades that you do in the States, over here in Europe, catfish, they use luncheon meat for catfish. They'll use carp, will eat sweet corn, and many of our, what we call coarse fish, which are non-salmonid fish, species like bream and roach and tench, will eat corn as well, or maize, as you guys might refer it to. So there's a lot of stuff. A fresh loaf of unsliced bread can be one of the greatest, most versatile baits ever for a lot of species of fish. When you take off the flake, as it's called, that very soft, flaky inner white part of the loaf. So yeah, we're very familiar with it, but I'll tell you one thing, I like that type of book you have. Now, who wrote that book? Can you show it to us over here for the viewers, please?
It's an author called Tony Lawley. And again, I was unfamiliar with this author and this book. I literally stumbled on it, and it's become one of my favorite books. I mean, lots of, he's got everything from the history of angling to techniques, statistics, talking about the most popular catch, which is bass, at least for freshwater. He talks about different species, myths, and a lot of different terminology. And one of my favorite little sections was how to photograph your fish. People ask me all the time, how do I take a great picture of my fish? Well, you don't really think of that when you're trying to be careful catching the fish and getting it back in time. But there's a little section on there that tells you how to sort of cheat the system and maybe make your fish look a little bigger than it actually is. Yeah. So there's some really great tips in there about that too.
I always love to see the guys, and they're holding these fish maybe like 4 feet away from them, straining their back muscles and their neck muscles just to try to make it look, and it looks so foolish.
Hey, you know, everybody likes to see a big fish, and we all like our, you know, in our fish stories, when we tell our friends, we like to, you know, I caught the great big one, I caught the big one. And now you can prove it with your photograph.
Well, that's it. Now, the other thing I was going to ask you with this book now, because one of my subtitles of all, you know, this little section is it a profound book? Has it changed your life? Or is it something that you have found very valuable, that you've got really valuable information from it?
I can't say that it's changed my life or changed how I fish, but it is a really great reference guide when I'm talking about, if I'm going someplace new, for example, here's how I like to use this. I'm going, say, Florida in a couple of weeks. I can look up the kinds of fish. They'll tell me what I'm going to catch there. I can look some information in this book and find out more about, you know, a little bit more about that species perhaps, or what other, the family of fish that it might come from. And, you know, I like to be knowledgeable, of course, about the fish that I'm catching and in that area. I think it adds, you know, it really encompasses, when you're there, taking advantage of your environment. So I use it as a resource guide. And sometimes, you know, I like to find out useless information about like where the Go Fish card game came from. You just never know when you want to throw that bit of knowledge out.
Absolutely. Useless trivia, but nonetheless rather interesting. Anietra, yes, thank you so much for doing the book review this week. It's a book I don't know, so it's by Tony Lawley. Can you repeat the title for our viewers again? That's
right. It's called Amazing Fishing, Facts and Trivia.
And what's the price point roughly in the States you paid for?
You know, oh gosh, let me look on here. I got it at a half-price bookstore, which I don't know if that means it's a.
That's always a good sign.
Not, but you know, I like to find gems. I think I probably picked it up for about $6 at a half-price bookstore.
Well, listen, Anietra, it's been a great, great pleasure again to have you doing the book review this week. Listen, enjoy your reading on your travels down on the airplane down to Florida. And as I mentioned, we will catch up with you in about 2 weeks' time to find out how you got on. And thanks once again for doing the book review. Anietra Hamper, thank you.
You're welcome, Alan. Talk to you soon.
Talk soon. You're watching Talk.TV, the weekly online show for all of us fish heads. Now, I'm with Mick Flanagan, who's a local author. He's also a fantastic fishing guide. And you can get him on. Go out, check his webpage, midlandangling.com. Mick, you spent a long time fishing. A lot of time fishing. And that knowledge base, which is a wonderful reservoir of knowledge, you give to your guests.
Yeah, and I've had guests, as you say, over the years now, I've guests from France, Italy, Germany, New Zealand, America, all over the world. And 99% of them are out and out genuine anglers. Yeah. And there's a thing that anglers have in common.
It's a brotherhood, it's a bond.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
And even with the language barrier, with the French and the Italians, once they fish, once they're good anglers, it breaks down many barriers. Yeah. And the fun I had over the years and the people I've met over the years, I'll bring them memories to my grave, to be honest with you.
That's fantastic.
You know, and I always relive, and you look at a photograph, and all of a sudden everything will jump back into your head from that day.
Absolutely.
Everything.
Absolutely. Well, you know, that brings me on very nicely to the next segment of the show, which I'm only hoping doesn't put Mick in an early grave, because it puts him under stress. But as a part of the show, I love indeed. Mick, you're going to be now put under the Fish Talk TV challenge. Oh. And it's something that requires dexterity, and the viewers already know this, so I'm going to get it and get you going. So we have a standard 7-foot bait casting rod and bait casting reel, and it has 30-pound braid on it.
Yeah.
And I'll bring you over the goodies then, which is an old fishing creel I have for many years. So we have a lure. That one there, the Minibite. It's actually a small Magnum Rapala. And we have the Dennis Pye look-alike float.
Well, I'd have to plan
and so what I want you to do is this, and it's for the viewers, I'm explaining it as well. So that you have to tread the line through the level wind, up through the 10 guides on the rod, down through the actual float, which is not an easy one, the dumbbell float. And I picked it specifically to make it difficult. And then you tie off a braid knot on this fellow here, and I'm going to time you. So I'll just get everything set up for us, and we move on. So here we have the leaderboard. And the leaderboard, da 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 da. And at the top of our leaderboard, we have Cathal Hughes, wonderful match angler, international angler. Barry Darby, great specimen hunter. Pascal Larissier from France. Dr. Ken Whelan, fishery scientist. And Paul Burke. Now, I want to clarify things for all of you viewers out there. Paul Burke, I'm not sure is still at it. I think, we're waiting for confirmation, I think he gave up. Anyway, Mick, you're not giving up.
Oh, we'll have a go ahead.
And I won't let you give up, Mick. I'm going to be like a life coach. I'm going to really egg you on.
We'll have a go ahead and see what happens.
Now, I'm going to count you down, and then you're going to run the line through the level wind, the 10 guides, through then the dumbbell float, and onto that. So, 3, 2, 1, go. So, Michael Flanagan, alias Mick Flanagan, is with me here tonight. He's a wonderful fishing guide, and you can go and see Mick's page at midlandangling.com. He's a great photographer, he's a writer, and he's also a journalist. Now, Mick, you've got 15 seconds gone, and you're actually making great headway.
We're not getting anywhere
yet.
The
smoke coming out of the reel is moving so fast.
There is. We're not getting anywhere.
It's not easy. But you know what? It's a great leveler what we're doing, guys, because it's a simple task and it's not simple. It looks simple, and it is most of the time when you're doing it in broad daylight and you're not under the glare of lighting, cameras in the studio.
Pressure. You're not under pressure.
And now you're going well. 45 seconds gone. Up to the 10 guides.
You see, the last couple of years, Alan, I had to get glasses.
Yeah, but you're doing well.
Between the photography work now and the computer work.
Which is very tough on your eyes, actually, because it's very close work.
Yeah, and you're spending a lot of time there doing photographs, especially in...
60 seconds gone. So 1 minute gone. You're flying now, Mick. You're right through the top guide. You're down to the dumbbell float. The Dennis Pye look-alike. 1 minute, 15 seconds gone. And you've got to beat 1 minute 23. Cathal Hughes who's unassailed at the moment, followed by Barry Darby at 1 minute 28.5 seconds. Pascal Arissier, our French friend, journalist, broadcaster, everything he is over there in France. He's on 1:57. Dr. Ken Whelan, limnologist and great salmon angler, is on 2 minutes 39. That's what you're going to beat.
I think you have a plug in this on me somewhere.
I have not. That has been used by the great and the good up to now, and has been rather successful. Keep pushing it down, Mick. Keep feeding it down, and do it in short. There you go. I think it's starting to come out now. Mr. Darby actually vacuumed it out with his mouth. You put your mouth to the other end, suck it through. That's a little hint he told us all. Mick, we're on 2 minutes 32. So
I'm going to be doing Paul Burke on it. When it's there, next time I come on and do it. Oh, that's all. No? I'll have to keep an eye on it.
tension rising now. I can see people in France and Germany, England saying, why isn't he able to get it through? Has Broderick has purposely tried to spike him?
I had to tell you how blind I am. It was down there already, I never seen it.
I couldn't see it, Mick, from here because I was actually focusing on the other part of it. But you're on 3 minutes 11:12. You're actually going to set a new record.
Yeah.
For the wrong end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
So, Michael, I'll put up the camera. 3:20. Mick, you're a sport.
We'll have another go ahead.
It's a bit of crack.
You know what you're going to have me doing all night now?
So I'm going to put you in here now. I'll put you in black just to differentiate you. So, number 6 for the viewers to see. Mick Flanagan. And he's 3. And it's 3:20.
3:20.
3:20.
Oh, we'll have another go ahead sometime, Alan.
So, Mick, thank you so much.
It was a bit of fun. Enjoy coming on with you.
You know what I mean?
And I wish you the best with this.
Now, folks, this is your show, as I mentioned to you. So, fishtalk.tv is the name of the show. You can tweet us at fishtalk.tv. Go and look at us at our Facebook page. But you know what you can do? Just keep watching us, and we're happy with that. But if you want to send us in some photographs, go and post them on our Facebook page. And I want to thank tonight Mick, my great friend who came tonight, Anietra Hamper over in Ohio, Columbus, Ohio, and of course Saad Bin Jung, who's out there in Oman, and he's doing all he can to try to protect and conserve the mighty Mahseer, and what a laudable thing he's doing for the greater good of conserving this wild, wonderful fish. But behind the scenes, I want to thank Gary Finnegan for all his production and skills in the editing, Lorna Finnegan for being our floor manager tonight, but most of all, I want to thank you all out there watching another show. Keep watching, and remember, you can also watch our podcasts or small segments of the show on our Facebook page, and you'll be able to see that. Go to youtube.com/Fish Talk Live, and you can watch segments of the show or watch the entire show in your own time on a podcast. So thank you so much. We'll be back next Thursday night, same time. Take care, good fishing. We'll see you then.